Hello and welcome to the Freedom Seeker Show. My name is Yvonne Winkler. I'm your host, and I'm the owner of Lotus Consulting Inc., a company on a mission to support women's wellness, well-being, with balancing out a harmonious approach, as well as empowerment and our favorite topic, which we're going to be talking about today with our guest Tanya Fox, collaboration. Oh, I was so thrilled to when Tanya said she wanted to talk about collaboration on this show because it is hands down one of my favorite topics as well. So we really resonated on that together. And since this show is all about, unfiltered conversations to really help women in business or in corporate, it doesn't matter, but to bring conversations to women that matter to us because it is different for us than it may be for men out there. So that's what this space is for. And I welcome our guest today is Tanya Fox, and she's an emergency business technician, which I have so many questions about what that's all about. So, but let's dive right in. How are you, Tanya? Thank you for being on the show.
I'm good. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm really excited to chat with you again. It's been a while.
It has been a while. We've both been very busy. We were just catching up a little bit on some of the things that have been happening for you and for me. And I'm very excited for both of us. 2023 is going to be a really rocking year on so many levels. And here we are making changes, transforming lives, and just really impacting our communities. And I love that for both of us. So very excited to have you here. Um, Before I ask you my favorite question, which is who you are and what got you into the field of being an emergency business technician, just want to ask, what is an emergency business technician?
So it's a good question. So if you think of an EMT, I'm an EBT. So same kind of thing. I come in when business owners and entrepreneurs are sort of feeling like something's not right. Something's not going on. They feel it in their intuition that their business is would be considered successful, but they themselves aren't happy. So I come in and help them get out of that, figure out, is this where you should be, is this what you should be doing? How can we change it? How can we involve it? Or how do we help you to move on? And a big component of that is showing them how they can do collaborations in their business to have fun and to also be able to scale and help others at the same time.
Mm, I love that because you're hitting on so many things that I'm so passionate about as well, and this community really is based on, which is creating a life of freedom and fulfillment. And to many of us, success uh, in on paper looks a certain way, but what we feel in here may be entirely different. So I love that you are working with business owners to really dig deep and find out what can be transformed within their business to make it everything they want it to be, make the impact they want it to make, fulfill their lives. That's wonderful. Um,
Well, and I think a lot of times, like I felt like this. I started my first business in 1998, just before Google, if you want to know how long ago that was. And, it was very successful, and I was taking the path I was supposed to as an accountant. And when I look back and I think, as I was going through a bunch of changes, because I've owned retail, service, franchise since then, I thought, thank God I did not stay on that path because it wasn't right for me. I would have made really good money, but I would have been very unhappy at the same time. Now, it wasn't an easy road. It took me 24 years to get here and realize, you know what? Considering how much time we spend at work, not having fun is no longer an option. And I don't want to say, this is what I'm going to be when I grow up and stick with that forever. Because I think we live in a world right now where we don't have to do that anymore. We don't have to take the corporate job and just go, I'll do this, retire, and then be retired for a couple of years, and then that's it. That's not what I want
Oh,
for my life. And I think a lot of other people out there are feeling that right now.
So true. And I'll add to it, it's not only that we don't have to do that anymore, it's also that we we cannot afford to do that anymore. We need to show up. We need to show up in our lives to our full capacity, and that is difficult to do when you're unhappy on the from the inside out. Like so whatever needs to shift for each of us to show up fully present to make the impact we all are capable of making, not just for our own lives, but for the lives of our immediate community around us. We need to have fun and enjoy what we're doing. Absolutely, yeah. Ah, so you already tapped into like wow, 1989, 98. Sorry, sometimes I get a little bit dyslexic with my numbers. So that's a long time ago. And I think you said something in your bio about like having owned franchise businesses, and you're still running three of them. So maybe let's start with who are you, Tanya? Like not just as a business owner, but also who are you as a human?
So I think the easiest way to explain that is I'm somebody who is not okay with growing up. I
Love it.
I don't want to know what I want to be, and that has given me a lot of freedom to be able to not be stuck in or not stick myself into, sort of a bubble. I'm also a wife, I'm a mom. Oh, my son just yesterday got his driver's license, and he literally like dropped me off at home, walked through the house to the front door, got into his truck, and then I didn't see him again.
Yeah,
So
here.
I'm also dealing with that life change of going, for 13 years, I have had something to do, at 8:30 in the morning and at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And now that's done. Like it's like ending a job, ending a part of that career of taxi
It
driver.
is. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Wow. That is, oh my goodness. On so many levels, I think that's pretty scary. As a mom, as a parent, to watch your child get behind the wheel and actually take on their charge of their own lives now. Like they can now go wherever they want, whenever
Yeah.
they
And
want.
I think for me, the biggest thing, like what it has kind of brought up to me is that change is okay. Like it's scary and it sucks, and I had my moments of crying, but it reminded me so much of, this is what happens. What happens in your personal life. This is what happens in business. Change comes and goes, and sometimes it hurts. And sometimes it's a tough pill to take. But sometimes you just have to, sort of trust the process and hope everything works out the way it's supposed to, or hope that they come back.
They will. They always come back to mom. They
Yeah.
always if you treated them well, they always come back. Um, you tap into a really great transition piece here for this taking a leap, and yes, it being scary, but making your way through it. And I feel like that leads beautifully into why collaboration is so important as business owners. So uh, let's go back to the fear component though. Have you um, like what is something you would like to share with the women listening here about how you have taken steps to get through, move through this fear and accepting change to be something that is not just necessary, but it's also can be fun, like you said.
I think the first thing is to understand, and this might sound like bad news, but it's not going to end.
Mhm.
um, and there's going to be more fearful things because, I've been an entrepreneur for 24 years. And there's still scary moments. There's moments where I'm putting like a lot of money into, a coach that I'm using that I'm like, oh God, I hope this works. Like, I think there's those things that always happen. For me, what I always, always, always try to remember is that this is a step. And no matter what happens, whether it's good or bad, I'm going to learn something really, really valuable. And I'm going to be able to pass that on to other people. And that's always been my goal as an entrepreneur is how can I take the shitty things and the good things that happen to me and how can I help someone else have a shorter path, not have to go, through the mud, not have to, get stuck. How can I share that? And I think especially as women, we need to be more open as entrepreneurs of going, you know what? I'm struggling. I need help. Um, and being okay with that, because I think what you do is allow others then to come out and go, oh my God, you are like, I am too. When I owned a retail store, I used to ask people all the time, like, hey, how's your day going? And they would be like, oh, it's great. And I'd be like, really? Because I've had like one person today. And they're like, me too. Like, I don't know what's going on. And I thought, I find that so often they just need permission to go, yeah, it's kind of shitty for
It,
me
it,
too.
it feels like that too.
Um,
Yeah.
it feels like that, right? Because we have that fear that if we say something, if we say, you know what, this isn't working, or I don't know how to do this,
Mm-hmm.
that means that, we're not good or we don't know what
Mm-hmm.
we're doing. And that's really how I started with collaboration, because I kept bumping into these people that were having the same problems as me. And I was going, why don't we work together to solve them? Because I don't want to do this by myself. It's not working.
Yeah. Yeah. I love, love, love that. And that has been my experience why collaboration actually became such a foundational piece in my business, in my entrepreneurial journey, because um, I used to think that exactly what you just said, I have to do it all on my own, look really fantastic doing it, and pretend that none of this shit is happening around me and I'm not losing my mind, and work till midnight and longer to burn the midnight oil or whatever they say, um, only to reach that mountaintop and then what? Stand on top of the mountain, put my flag down and say, I did it and I did it all by myself. Like, it doesn't work because
Yeah.
we need support along the way, and whatever that's a form of support looks like. And so why not just embrace that and lean into it and say and make collaborations out of it, because then we're benefiting everyone. I remember specifically the first time that really really worked for me, or it really showed up for me, was doing this right here, like doing interviews and doing speaking engagements. It is so scary to put yourself out there, and doing the first few, it was so much easier having not just a team behind me that was helping me with components of the event, but also having literally someone standing with me and sharing the stage and sharing the conversation, so that we can not only bring even more value to the listener, but also um, ease our own fear, or ease our own struggles with what, because there's so many moving parts that are showing up.
Yeah.
There's the emotional aspect, the physical, like all of it. So I really
Well,
love.
and I think too, what it does is it allows you that, when times are tough, you've got that support there of somebody that you're working with to help you through. But the celebrations are so much better too, because you have somebody else to share in it. And you
True,
have
you're not
somebody else
standing on
who's
that mountaintop by yourself.
yeah. And there's somebody else who goes, "Oh, like, at the end of every collaboration I do, I always go what was your favorite part?" And every single time, I don't think there's ever been one time that somebody hasn't said something that I was like, God, I never even thought of that. You're right. That was really awesome, because they see things differently than you do. They experience, whether it's an event, whether it's just something that you do together. And I think it's an easy way too, if anybody is listening, a lot of people too think, well, I'm not big enough to collaborate, or I don't have enough of an audience, or I don't know enough people. And the truth is, when I did my first collaboration first, I had no idea it was a collaboration, but I was broke
Yeah.
and I needed to advertise. So I actually went to my local newspaper, and their prices were crazy. That's when people advertised in newspapers. So that tells you how long ago that collaboration
24
was.
years ago.
Um, but I went to them and said, like, I was looking for ads. And then I saw like a little sign that they were looking for some help. And I went, oh oh, I know how to do books, because I had an accounting company at that time. And that's when I said, hey, would you be willing to trade me doing your books for you running ads? And, we'll just kind of make it work. And they were like, yeah, let's do this. And so, I mean, there was a lot more involved behind the scenes in making it work, but it worked really, really well. So a collaboration could be something as simple as that, as you finding somebody who needs your service and you want theirs and going, hey, are you willing to trade a little bit? Because, that's what I call is a trade collaboration. And they're really, really easy to do. And you can do them with just other people that you know in business, other entrepreneurs. It could be as simple as sharing some information that they have out. And you can work with anybody. I've worked with people who do the same thing I do. And people go, but they're your competition. And I'm like, that's who I love to collaborate with the most, because they have my key audience. And
Exactly.
a lot of times it's referrals that kind of go back and forth,
Mhm.
but it's so easy to be able to trade people off, to go, oh, you really work well with men, or you really work well, with corporations. I like to work with small business owners. Why don't we do a trade where every time you get somebody, you'll send it to me, and vice versa. So it can be something that's really simple, like a trade collaboration, and it can go something really big, like what I call a complex collab, which is something that involves lawyers and money. That gets a little bit bigger because there's usually a lot more people involved in that. But there's also one-sided collaboration. So I'll tell this with a little bit of a story. When I owned a retail store, I really wanted to work with a local quilting company that we had in town. But sometimes you go up to people and you've got an idea and you're like, oh my God, this is going to be great. Like, they're going to work with me. This is going to be so beneficial. Like, it's going to be awesome. And I walked in the door and I was like, hey, do you want to work together? And the owner was like, absolutely
No.
not. Not a chance. And I was like so defeated, because I was like, and this wasn't that long ago. Like, we're talking like 7 years ago. I was like, no, this will be fantastic for you, but didn't want to have anything to do with it. And so that's when I kind of went, let's create what I call a one-sided collaboration. So I literally was like, I really want to work with this person. So I kept sending people to them and saying, please let them know I told you to come. I would share their events. I would reach out to them. I would comment on their posts. I was really just sticking my name out in front of them. In the end, it worked out that finally they were like, fine, okay, like, let's do it. And it worked out really, really well. And, but it took over a year for me to get them to understand that this was going to be beneficial to them. So sometimes it's easy as being, like going to a best friend and kind of saying, hey, want to trade stuff? And they're like,
Yeah.
sign me up. And other times it takes a little bit longer to convince people, because, they're unsure of it. So the other thing that I would also say to remember is that oftentimes people will go in, like I did, the craft store, with the quilt store, and go, I have this brilliant idea. Um, but what you also have to do is stop and think, what is it that they want?
Yeah.
Because they're only going to do the collaboration if it makes sense to them. They don't care. Nobody cares what you're going to get out of it. They care what they're going to get out of it. So, how to do, a collaboration is really just think of somebody that you want to work with. Who do you want to work with? What do you have to offer them? What do you think what do you want from them, or what do they have to offer you? And then that's kind of how you can approach them, is say, I had this idea. What do you think? And they might go, oh, well, I don't really want to do that, but I would do this. I don't really want to like trade that way, but I would do discounts back and forth. So you really have to listen, because oftentimes what you think they need isn't what they actually need. So you just have to be open to them going, well, maybe
Detach
not
from
just
your
this way.
own
So
agenda in the whole thing is what
yeah,
I'm hearing.
don't get too stuck
Yes.
on your idea that it's
Yeah.
brilliant, because sometimes they don't think it's brilliant.
See, if I would have been in your position, and I have been in your position, where I literally thought, oh, I can see it. It's so brilliant. And I can see how it works. And it wasn't even just benefiting me. It was legit that it was such a brilliant, and they were like not seeing it. I gave up. I didn't do what you did, which was
Yeah.
persistently pursuing the idea. Like, do you have a tip for people like me? to when to know to let it go? Like you've pursued this particular
Well,
collab for a year.
I have a problem letting go.
Oh, okay.
So, but it might change. It might the what I thought the original relationship or the original thing working together was going to be might morph. So, the
Yeah.
one mistake that I made in that example is I came in like somebody with an overcoat who was like, "Want to buy a watch?" Right? And
I
it to
love it.
them they were like, "No, thank
No.
you. Like you can just leave now." So, it was really making sure that I built a relationship, that I let them know first and foremost that I was interested in them, in what they do, in what they have to offer. And once I was able to establish that, once they saw my face enough, then the trust factor was there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm not saying they were like, here, babysit my kids. It wasn't that trust. It was just they had seen me around enough. And sometimes that's all it is. Somebody
Yeah.
just needs to see your face enough. And
Yeah.
then they kind of go, oh, I know them. And this is something that can happen online. Like, how many times do you meet somebody that you only knew online? And then you're like, I feel like I know you, like,
Yes. Oh,
because I've read about
especially.
you.
Yeah. 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 I mean, I've been to events where I walk up to people or people will come up to me and they we're interacting as if we've known each other for years, and we literally only know each other from online, like our presence online. And so yeah, I totally get that. Which, I mean, pre-Google, that was a little more difficult. It
It
was
was.
very
It was a lot of foot traffic. Like you
yeah,
couldn't just sort of
yeah,
sit at home and work on it. And
yeah,
when you start doing, working into wanting to collaborate with other people, use people first and kind
yeah,
of work out the kinks and stuff like that. And it could be something really really simple. So like as an example, let's say somebody out there owns a retail store. You can do we did this big promotion where it was the golden egg contest. So I went around to as much retail stores as I could and said, would you be willing to do this program with us? You just have to put this giant Easter egg somewhere in your store, and I'm going to team you up with another business, and we're going to have people come and try to find the egg. Then they're going to take a selfie with the egg, and at the bottom of the egg, it'll have, another egg can be found at this business. And they were like, what do I have to do? And I'm like, well, if you would give a gift certificate or a prize, that would be great, because whoever wins this contest at the end would get all of the prizes of everyone participating. But you get exposure on social media and they have to tag you and all of this other stuff. People were so willing to be like, 100%. Like, I'll do it. That's super easy.
yeah,
So to them, that's all they were doing. To me, I was like, I'm going to start teaming them up with somebody that they wouldn't normally work with. And then I'm going to be able to get all of these other collaborations happen. So there was kind of like a grander scheme in my head of it all. But that was a really easy start to get my foot in the door,
yeah,
because then I was going around and checking on everybody. I was the main contact. So it ended up being 17 stores knew who I was. So when I walked in the door again to say, hey, do you want to work with me on this project? They were like, absolutely. That other one was so much fun. So sometimes starting small and then growing from that can really help you to, get your face known.
yeah, yeah. Build the relationship. I love that. That is such and whatever that takes to build that relationship. I love the tip of going small, like, building that trust component. I think that's probably where most of my shock would be is like, don't you know who I am? Like, what do you mean? But reality check. No, not everybody does. Um, so I love how you've addressed a lot of the challenges that you faced in collaboration. Maybe can we dive just a little bit more into what different collaborations, like you said, there's trade collaboration and complex collaborations. I love the example of the one-sided collaboration, which really led down the pathway of building relationships
Mhm.
with business owners. How did you like? How do you brainstorm different collaborations? How do you sit down and come up with who you want to approach?
So usually what I'll do is I'll make a huge list. So I tell people to be realistic. Do not put that you want to collaborate with Oprah. I love y'all, but it ain't happening. You got to build up to that. But look
Most.
around locally. Is there someone else that you've always wanted to look at? And when I say locally, I mean like, if you're a brick and mortar business, if you're an online business, look to who are you following? Who are you talking to a lot online? And just think, what are two things that we could give each other? And sometimes this is just having a conversation with them and saying, hey, I'm just kind of doing this survey and I'm curious about, is there something in your business that you hate doing or that you wish somebody else would do? People will give you a big list. People will be like, let me tell you what I don't like doing.
How much
And then
time do
from
you have?
yeah, exactly. But from there, you can kind of look at that list or something is going to go, ooh, I can do that. I know how to do that. And sometimes it's just complimenting them and saying, if you want to work with them, say on social media, you can say, hey, I really love how you do social media. Would you be willing to kind of have a conversation with me? About it. And so it's really just think about what it is that you want from them, but also what can you give them? And a lot of times people will turn around and go, oh, I can't give them anything. I promise you, there is something that you do that they don't like to do.
Yeah,
There is something that they think is really cool that you do. So just let them tell you what that is. And
yeah.
sometimes that's just saying, like, I really want to work with you. I have no idea how, but I really want it. Do you think we could sit down and brainstorm? And usually between the two of you, stuff will come up. So if you're feeling a little like not super creative, like you're like, I want to do something, but I want it to be really creative. What I tell a lot of my clients to do is go outside, take a walk, look at something like, say, a light post, and try to think of something else that light post could be used for.
Hmm.
Or use it with a pencil. I say this to people all the time. I hold up a pencil and I kind of go, okay, name 5 things that this pencil could be used for besides writing. And I used to use this when I would interview employees, and actually I still use it to this day. But it's just getting your mind out of the ordinary of
Yeah.
going, oh no, a glass of water is a glass of water. A pencil is a pencil. I mean, a pencil you can use to put your hair up in a bun. You could use it as a back scratcher. They don't have to be like these super innovative things that you're going to be, that's it,
That
I'm
no
going
one
to
has
Shark
thought of
Tank.
before. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Like it's just getting your mind to start to see
yeah,
things differently. And how can you look at someone else's business a little bit different,
yeah,
of what they do, what they offer, and be able to then say, hey, we can help each other out.
yeah. I love that so much, because I think that is where most of my clients often get stuck into is how do I like, and I get it. I mean, we are as especially as solopreneurs, we are wearing all the hats. So having someone, give us a couple of like get my juices going here on this creativity is important for me especially. I need some inspiration to get it going. I can be very creative and I can be a very creative thinker, but creative thinking requires um, requires a certain amount of fulfillment, requires a certain amount of calm and peace and presence. We can't be creative when we're in the middle uh, of a shitstorm or
Yeah.
surviving or anything like that. So I love that. Now tell me, do you have tools that you offer to get people started with having some like context to approach people? Do you have anything that we can send
Yeah.
people to?
So if I'm sure we'll have my email address. It's my direct email address, and I have some templates that I send out to people. That's like an idea generator. So it's just a list of some previous collaborations that I've done in the past that I've put together, and then also a template for you actually figuring out who it is that you want to work with, and you're just filling in the blank. So it's a little bit easier than just kind of working from scratch and sitting with a blank piece of paper and going, okay, now what do I do? Now
I
where do
love
I go with
this.
this?
Yeah,
Because I find sometimes when you see other collaborations that have been done, it sparks something in your head. And sometimes, I always say, pick the business that is the exact opposite of what you do and try to figure out a way that you could sort of make a mini commercial to make those two things mix together. So I had somebody at a party, people use this as a party trick with me, but I had somebody at a party go, "Really? You can make any two things connect together?" And I was like, "Usually." And so they were like, "Okay, what about my pillow and Red Bull?" And I was like, "Okay, those are two opposite things." But I was like, "Okay, well, if I was going to do it in commercial, I would say like my pillow helps you get a great night's sleep so you can have your Red Bull and take over the day." Right? Like I was like, there's always ways that you connect it. Now, would I approach those two companies? Probably not.
Probably not. Yeah.
But it did spur on, later on, I sort of thought, you know what? I had this lady who made these beautiful it's called cold porcelain flowers, and she would do it for weddings. So she would duplicate your bouquet, and then you would have a photo of the bride and groom. But she was like, business was a little slow with that. And I thought,
Mhm.
I had a funeral home that wanted to work. And when I approached her and said, "I think you should do this for a funeral home," she was like, "Are you out of your mind?" And I'm like, "No, but I was just thinking, like, I would love to have like my grandma's favorite flower and then a picture of her, like, as opposed to having like an urn or something like
Mhm.
that."
Yeah.
Anyways, the collaboration ended up working and it was fantastic because she didn't have to do anything. She just did
Mhm.
a couple of displays and they sold the stuff for her. So
Yes.
it worked really, really well. So sometimes it is the exact opposite person. And those ones are fun because when you approach them, they're like, "I don't understand how we would work together." But when you can sort of tie that line for them, it's really fun to watch them go, "Okay, let's see if this will work."
Yeah, well, it's we're going right back to, getting out of your own head about it
Yeah.
and just unattaching from from what your idea should it looks like, and
Yeah.
that's I again, I get it too, it's tough for me sometimes, I have a certain idea in my head, and it's a practice, it's a muscle, that I keep exercising quite frequently to say, "No, this isn't just about me, this is, like, what else is possible
Yeah,
if I just
and
open up
sometimes
my
that's
mind?"
even just send it out on your social media or onto
Yeah,
your email list and say, "Hey, I'm looking to trade services with somebody. I'm looking for a maid
yeah,
and I do hair. So if you'll come, and I don't do hair, but I did books,
yeah,
and I did that with my maid for years. We just traded services. So it doesn't necessarily need to be something big, and that didn't benefit my business directly, but I didn't have to clean my house for a couple of years, and
yeah,
it didn't cost me anything except for a little bit of time. So sometimes it could just be as easy as that, as saying, "I need help with this, and this is what I'm willing to offer. Anybody interested?"
anybody
And
interested, and put it out
usually
there.
people
Yeah,
and usually, yeah, if you just put it out there, then there's usually somebody who will, respond back and go, "Hey, I think this is going to work." So
yes,
get really clear though on what it is that you're willing to give if you're doing a trade collaboration. So like I love watching like the lines when you vacuum a carpet go, but I'm not doing that for anybody. So make sure it's something that you have the time to give, and two, that you're willing to give, and then make sure it's going to benefit you.
mhm,
It needs to benefit both parties, but at the beginning you have to go, "I want this because I want a maid to come in and clean my house, because those 2 hours I'm going to spend doing social media, or I'm going to spend time with my family," or whatever it is for you. Just
yes.
make sure that it's worth it for you to give that away.
Love this. My gosh, this was so helpful and useful. And we did get a comment. I don't know if you saw that, but one of our viewers said, "This is so good. Most times I'm leery when someone asks me to collaborate. I need to ask more questions when someone asks. Most times in the past, it's been very one sided.
Yes.
Exposure doesn't pay the bills." Yeah, and I see that too. That the one sidedness in a collaboration, when maybe we can leave it off with that. Can you give us a tip on when a collaboration doesn't go as planned, and it is very one-sided, as it turns out, like all the best intentions going in, but it just doesn't work out? What do you do?
So, usually what I suggest to all of my clients is partway through is at the beginning, find out who's responsible for what. You guys should both be sitting down and figuring out exactly what you're each hoping to gain from this. And then, depending on how long the collaboration is, about halfway through, I have another meeting. Is this working? And don't be scared to go, "Hey, I'm kind of feeling like this is a little one-sided." Because a lot of the times people don't see it or they
Mhm.
don't know. Or I've had it happen to me before that they were doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes that I wasn't aware of.
Right. So
Um,
they were helping in
and
a different way that wasn't visible to you.
Right, because I wasn't thinking that that was a part of it.
Mhm.
So just be really open with that conversation and actually saying beforehand, okay, so we're going to have a meeting and at this date and let's discuss and make sure that we're both feeling good about it. If you
Yeah.
say that right off the bat, it doesn't come as a surprise. The other person
Mhm.
doesn't feel attacked, but you've opened that line of communication that you're saying like, hey, I'm going to be holding you accountable and vice versa. So you have to be willing to take that too.
Absolutely. And I yeah, I love that. And again, it's a muscle, it's a practice. So if you're
It
starting
is.
out with a collaboration that you know this person or you're already friends with them, it might be easier to practice that, but definitely practice it even when they are your friends because
And lay it out. No collaboration does not go down in writing. So write down and I'll include that as well as I have a thing that you can write down and fill it out. This is what I'm getting, this is what you're getting, this is what it's expected of me, this is what's expected of you.
Mhm.
Because then everybody has it in black and white. It's not, don't you remember when we were sitting there and I said this? Write all of that stuff down because
Yes.
it's really important and it also saves you in the end if you kind of go, no, 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 I'm not doing this again at the end of the collaboration too, sit down with yourself and sort of go, how did this work? Did I feel like I did more work? Did I not? And keep that list.
Mhm.
I call it my hit list. So if somebody comes back to me, I look through that list and I go, okay, was this good? Was this not?
Right.
Sometimes it's just, I need to be aware this person needs more accountability. So I have to check with them more often. So sometimes it's not never a no, but you just then go into the next collaboration together with your eyes open, knowing this is what it's going to take to make it be successful, or going, not doing that again, which I've had some of those.
Yeah. Um, Thank you, Tanya. That was so helpful and such a great topic. I would love to have you back and talk some more about all the useful things you have. I know you have lots of great ideas and um, uh, offers, I guess, that we can take part in. So, would you mind once this video, like once we're done, to include on the comment section underneath here the links to where we can get those beautiful tools that you've mentioned,
Absolutely.
and if anyone else has any questions, I know you're part of the Free to Receiver community. If you can just keep an eye on those and answer any questions that anyone may have that is watching after
Yeah,
this.
absolutely. And for your community as well, I'm happy to offer a discovery call as well for them so they can get one on one with me and I can help them, just come up with the idea
Okay.
of how they can start their first collaboration. So
Oh, I love that. Yes. Thank you so much, Tanya. And we'll see you again soon.
thank you.